so many people have explained customer experience as a system checklist or something you do.
Yep.
And what you have done and are really clarifying is we need to emphasize empathy. We need to see through the eyes of the customer, and every customer's eyes are different. Different people are going to feel different things. So we have to have a system or structure that's adaptable instead of just the same thing for everyone, right?
Mhm.
We can systematize some of the things, but we really have to have an adaptable system.
Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast. We are on the road to 1 million downloads. We are almost there. We are almost there because you're watching, you're listening, you're sharing Referrals Podcast. Thank you so much for doing that. We definitely appreciate it. We, of course, appreciate your referrals. It's Referrals Podcast. Like, of course, we appreciate your referrals and all referrals. And I have to tell you that today's episode is maybe even a little more special and amazing than others. With my real estate team, we had a motto that we all knew, we all memorized, and we had it like the back of our hand. And it is, we are the Maher team, a team of professionals who create and provide the ultimate client experience, creating ambassadors and champions who speak highly of us and refer us often. Remember, with the Maher team, we're not number one, you are. I just did that from memory, and I haven't said that in years. So that's how strong that motto was within our company. And what's funny is I took a lot of pride in the ultimate client experience part of our real estate services. I took a lot of pride in that. I studied it. I read all the books about it. And now I've read a book that has me questioning, did we really provide a referable client experience? Now, the book that I read is the Referable Client Experience. Doesn't Isn't that a great like title? That says it all, people. And you're noticed like the green on green is pretty sweet here. And green is the theme. Green is the color of money and growth, which I love that theme. But I want you guys to know that I've read a lot of books, over 2,500 books. And this book made me look at things differently for maybe the first time in about 12 to 15 books. And it was just like, this is a book that you're all going to go buy. You're going to buy it. If you're interested in referrals, you're interested in creating a referable client experience. It just makes sense. So I just want you to know that we have the author of that book on here today. We have that author. Not like me giving you the book club edition. No, we're going straight to the author, the builder of the system. I would keep going into the Game of Thrones intro, like, the Lord of the Seven Realms, yeah. So, but I have to make everybody wait just a second before we get to Stacey, because the first thing is we have an announcement that Referco is partnering with Keller Williams. Perhaps you just saw the press release that came out recently. And we have two fast tracks that we have developed with them. And we have become essentially the referral trainer of choice with Keller Williams. Keller Williams, for those of you that don't know, is a fairly large real estate company. In fact, it's the biggest real estate company. And in that press release and in talking to Gary Keller, our shout out today is Gary Keller said, at the core of every great business are great relationships. We are excited to bring Michael's approach to KW because when you master referrals, you master longevity in the real estate business. So thank you, Gary, for saying that. Very excited about the partnership. And they had a lot of choices when it came to that. And I'm just really proud and honored and honestly privileged that they would choose me to help them with the referral training and own that part of their training. So, and I take ownership and responsibility with that let's make Keller Williams the most referred real estate company out there. Now, we also work with realtors that are with all companies, and we continue to do that. So I just want to clarify that we also have arrangements with Layer Realty. We have arrangements with other companies, and we're happy to help any realtor, lender, or anybody in the real estate business get more referrals. That's what we're here for. So then, speaking of getting more referrals, you've got to check out Notvember.com. Notvember, it's very simple. If you were in a court of law and they were trying to figure out whether you're guilty of being appreciative. Are you appreciative? Are you appreciative? You probably say, yes, I'm appreciative. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that you're appreciative? Have you, if the court said, well, prove that you're appreciative, how would you prove it? Now, if you had 500 people who showed up at the court and said, she wrote me a handwritten note, he wrote me a handwritten note, you would have evidence of your appreciation. Put your appreciation in writing. Join Notvember.com. And I want you to know, when you get into November, you also get a free trial for Referral Mastery Academy with every time you get into November. So check it out at Note, Vember, Vember.com. It is not too late to join the challenge. We would love to have you in the challenge, and we want you to get referrals. Speaking of referrals, like, we're speaking about referrals. Like, I'm so excited about this podcast. I just have to tell you guys. Stacey Brown Randall is the author of the new book, The Referable Client Experience, the award-winning book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, and the host of the Roadmap to Referrals podcast with over 300 episodes. You've got to check it out. Roadmap to Referrals podcast. Stacey teaches business owners how to generate referrals naturally, without manipulating, without incentivizing, or even asking for referrals. She has been featured in national publications like Entrepreneur Magazine, Investor Business Daily, Forbes, and more and more and more. She received her master's in organizational communication and is married and has 3 children. Please help me welcome back. It's episode 58 was the last time. Like, what have we been doing for 400 podcasts to not have her back? I'm firing everybody on the podcast team. But please help me welcome back to the podcast, Stacey Brown Randall.
Thank you so much for having me. It's funny when you say like times, like years ago, right, that I was on the podcast, and all I can think of, yeah, now I show up and I need to wear glasses. Like, time's changing.
You haven't aged a bit, my dear. And
Thank you.
in today's world, the glasses are just an accessory. You could not even have prescription lenses and fit in well with, the people that are up and in today. So
That is
love
true.
it.
Yes. Yeah, but it's crazy. Like, time flies, right? So thank you for having me
It really
back.
does. Absolutely our pleasure. And congratulations and kudos on the new book. What a great product. What a great, just a great read. It's like, you're so likable. And here's what I love. I know the book wasn't made through AI. I know it wasn't. You don't have to deny it. I'm just telling you, it was not made through AI. I can tell. Like, it's your voice, it's your strategies, it's your systems. I can feel you wanting me to do this. Like, you want me to implement it and get referrals. I felt that. Like, you're not writing a book as a business card to get business or sell classes or whatever it may be. Right. You wrote this book for me. You wrote this book for implementers. You wrote this book for people like you, right? And I just want to acknowledge that and tell you how much I love it. It's a great book. It really is.
Thank you very much. Well, you've written a book. They're not the easiest thing to do in the world. So I appreciate hearing that. Thank you very much.
They're not. I'm due, Stacey. Everybody tells me I'm due. I'm due for a new book, and I am due. But
the first book came out in 2018. I was overdue. So, it's 2025. It took a while, but I got it out.
We can't use COVID as an excuse anymore, right? I totally did, but now it's 2025 and they're like, well, COVID's kind of a while ago, Michael. Yeah. You gotta, yeah.
I was using COVID as an excuse when it wasn't really an excuse. I was like,
it's actually an excuse to actually write a book. It would have been like, if you really think about it, well, you're home more, right, Michael? And it's like, Oh, wait. No, don't go that way with it. Right.
Yeah. Well, not if you're home with children. So that
Yeah.
has continued to be an excuse for me, right? Like too many kids. That's my problem. I had three too many.
That's a good excuse. That's a good excuse.
Yeah.
Children come second, right? Right. They come second after you and
Always.
your spouse, of course.
Always.
Right. No.
But
Yeah.
never.
Every parent knows the reality of this.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into this. So first of all, client experience. Most people think client experience, or CX, as a lot of people refer to it, equals good customer service. In this book, you draw a much sharper distinction. How do you define, and let's just define it for everybody, how do you define client experience now, and what finally made that definition click to you?
Yeah, so client experience is defined as how your client feels while they're working with you. And that is so much bigger than customer service, which is just the idea of solving a problem when something happens. So customer service is necessary. It's just a part of the overarching client experience. And, it's interesting when I was writing this book. So this book actually started back in 2019. It just, again, like we said, it just took a while to get to the finished product. When I was like doing my research, I'm like, I wonder how other like big name consulting firms and like marketing agencies, the names that everybody would know, I wonder how they define client experience. And back then, I got very different answers. Now, last year, 2024, when I'm like writing the manuscript and writing that section, I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just see if anything's outdated. And so I went looking for those same sources, like how are they defining client experience now? And yeah, years ago, they were all like different definitions. Some things weren't even about the client. It was really weird. And now everyone's pretty locked in on like what I've been locked in on, which is client experience is how your client feels and that emotional attachment that they have or don't have is really important in terms of whether or not they're going to actually not only be willing to talk about you, right? But also like anything else, like the testimonials, the referrals, right? All those things come from how that client feels. So it's just a really important piece for people to understand.
Well, and it is different, right? It is different because so many people have explained customer experience as a system checklist or something you do.
Yep.
And what you have done and are really clarifying is we need to emphasize empathy. We need to see through the eyes of the customer, and every customer's eyes are different. Different people are going to feel different things. So we have to have a system or structure that's adaptable instead of just the same thing for everyone, right?
Mhm.
We can systematize some of the things, but we really have to have an adaptable system. I absolutely love that. And you talk about these three core stages
Mhm.
of client experience. So, what are the three? And can you give examples that you like the examples you used in the book?
Yeah. So one thing for people to note is that there's three stages in the client experience. Most folks listening to this podcast as real estate agents are going to have all three, but there are definitely some industries where you only have two. So let me walk you through them and then we'll talk about who has three and who has two, just so people kind of put it in context. So everybody, the minute a client says, yes, I'm going to hire you, Michael, right? The minute a client says yes to you, that's when the client experience begins. Everything prior to that, yes, whether it's in their head or it's a yes in their head and verbally at the same time, everything prior to that is the buyer's journey. It's them deciding to work with you. The minute they make that commitment, that's when their client experience starts. And they enter into the new client stage. Everybody has a new client stage. How long it lasts, though, is dictated by you. It's not an industry standard. It's not a Stacey standard. It is you decide when the client is no longer new. Then they move from new to active. Active is where most of the work is going to be done. It's the longest stage in terms of active work being done. So we're doing stuff for them in the new stage, then they move into the active stage. Once they're done working with you, technically you could make the argument, well, the client experience ends. Except in a referral land, right? If we want to
Mhm.
get referrals, we have to be willing to extend that client experience to what we call the alumni stage. And that is our third stage. So new, active, alumni. If, let's say, for sake of argument, you are like a CPA and you want to prepare someone's taxes year after year after year, you don't want your clients to leave. You don't ever want them to land in the alumni stage. So you would go from new to active, and then active would become ongoing. And they would just be in that stage, right? Hopefully forever. And so it's important for people to understand those three stages. Everybody has new and active. Almost every single real estate agent has an alumni stage. They all get to that point where then the client is done working with them. And so those are those three stages. And then how we look at what we do in those three stages. I always tell folks, my book is not going to teach you your checklist. It's not going to teach you, will you sign the buyer's agreement and then I sign you up on MLS so you can get all those house searches that come in with your criteria. And then you're going to find some houses you want to go to. And I call nothing's called anymore. I guess when I used to do real estate, we called whatever. You don't call it a set of tours anymore. You just schedule those house visits, right? That's how you run your business in terms of how you get the client through the work that you do. This book isn't teaching that, right? What my book is teaching is you have that in place. Those are called your work touch points. Make sure you also have some relationship building touch points fused into those work touch points as they move from new, active, into alumni stage. And so when I talk about like examples, I'm always like, I'm not telling you like what your checklist should look like. I'm not telling you what, how you should do a HUD statement review, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you those things. But what I am going to say is that when your client enters the new stage, you better know what they're feeling. You better know what they are. We call it the quiet voice. It's all the things they're not saying to you, but they are definitely thinking. And you need to know that that quiet voice comes from a place of like buyer's remorse and concern and anticipation and all the things. And so the relationship stuff we do, we want to step in and we want to speak to that quiet voice, but it will look different when they move into the active stage. Now we're in the lull of waiting or in the highs and lows of the fact that, it's not working the way they thought it would work in terms of buying or selling a house. You got to speak to that, right? And so when you look at, you'd ask for some examples, when you look at someone in the new stage and trying to speak to that quiet voice, one of the most important things you can do is meet them where they are. It's like the ability for your relationship building touch points to be like, I see you and I got this, right? It's so very important. So most people will send like the welcome card. We're so glad that you're a client. Thanks for being our client. While that's nice, that's really all about you. What we call, instead of a welcome card, we call it a journey card. It's letting them know like, we're about to go on a journey. And it's whatever they're feeling, right? So for real estate agents, let's be honest, it will not go according to plan. It doesn't in my world either, right? Like it will not always go according to plan. We cannot control the market and the humans involved in the transactions. Like that's just what it looks like, right? So when you have this journey card that you're sending out, it's not saying thanks for being a client. We're so excited to work with you. It's saying we're so excited to work with you. But we also know that this journey is going to have some ups and downs, and it may challenge you and it may stretch you and you may feel frustrated, and that is normal. And don't worry, you're not alone. I'm your co-pilot and I've got you. Something with that language that speaks to the quiet voice, like, oh, so me being all irritated at you because something you can't control is normal. Oh, when we name it and label it, right, we diffuse it. And that's really important from understanding like what is your client feeling while they're in the new client stage and how can you use relationship building touch points to see them. They still feel like work, right? I mean, that is a welcome card. It may feel like a work touch point, but we look at that as a relationship building one because you're showing them that you see them where they are. And that's really important. And so you have to pay attention to what do your clients feel when they move through the stages. Now, some of what they feel we want to like be intentional about them feeling that way, right? But I'm talking about it's the things that they feel that they don't always say to you. We want to make sure we're meeting them where they are.
I absolutely love that. I think you just did a promotion for November right there with instead of writing a thank you note that just says thank you, you are forcing you're forcing the consultant or salesperson to listen, or you're telling someone who's good at listening to incorporate what they heard into the note. And like you're identifying their biggest concern and then kind of conquering it in the note instead of just writing I'm so happy that you're a new client. Thank you for signing up for with us. And me, I. It's 100% like, what is their concern, and could you conquer that in that handwritten note? And just know that a handwritten note is ahead of 99% of all professionals, but we're going that extra 1% with hearing them. And like you said, seeing them, meeting them where they're at. I absolutely love that. I know that in our initial consultation with the Maher team, that we talk about the three phases of the transaction that they're going to experience. And we don't say before, during, and after. We say, all right, right now, you are in the wandering phase. You're wandering all over the place. You're looking at Google and Redfin and on trying to find MLSs, and you're driving by houses, you're going to open houses, you're wandering. And what we do at this consultation is give you focus so that you're no longer wandering. Now, I talk about, all the different things that are going to happen next, showings and finding the one, negotiations, and then you're going to be under contract. Well, as soon as you go under contract, you're going to enter into a new phase. And that phase is now you are wondering. You're going into the wondering phase. Well, during the wondering phase, you're wondering what's next. You're wondering, what do I do? I found my house. And during the wondering phase, we're going to give you knowledge. We're going to help you through that and let you know what's next and help you, save the most amount of money and make it the most hassle-free we can. Then you get to closing. Yay, closing celebration. And once you've closed on your home, you're entering a new phase of our relationship. And that phase is the wonderful phase. And the wonderful phase, it's a wonderful life, right? The wonderful phase is when we are going to give you service and community. You become a part of our community forever, and we are going to give you service community. Any real estate need you need for the rest of your life, we're going to be here to help you. We can help you in other states. We can help you anywhere around Kansas City. We're here to help with any real estate question, and we're going to provide these events and other things that we do to maximize that experience for you. So you're going to go from the wandering to the wondering to the wonderful with the Maher team. And when I read your book and you talked about going from their emotions, like that's what that entire thing was predicated on, is
Yep.
how are they feeling, most people feeling, and how can we just assuage those fears and help them feel a little bit more comfortable. So I just love that. And I don't want any alumni, right? Even though it kind of makes sense in real estate.
Yeah.
It's like, I never want you to graduate from me. I want it to be like, like, I'm going to be your best friend forever,
Right.
and it's
You can
like,
still be that in the alumni phase. You can
okay,
stay best friends forever, but it's going to be in the alumni phase. I'm just curious though, Michael, when talking about the wandering to wondering to wonderful, you probably know where this question's coming from. Did you guys ever have that in visual form?
yes.
Did you have it like mapped out, like it was like a Candyland, kind of like a board game
Wasn't that good.
visually?
I saw in your book, and I
Yeah.
saw what you've shared with the Candyland and the, like, the Monopoly board and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The answer is no. I'm like, but I had it
But you had it
visual
written
on,
down.
no, I mean, on a PowerPoint. So
Mhm.
it was pretty, but
Right.
it wasn't the little, I mean, I wish I would have,
Right.
made the little squares on their journey, right? It really
Well,
was the client experience journey.
yeah, so what we're referencing in the book is in chapter 4. It's the expectation map. And this is a big miss that I find that people have in their client experience in the new stage. It's the not only do I have the quiet voice wondering, like, did I make the right choice? I'm also in this state of, do I know what's coming? And if I don't, I start assuming. And that's terrible for us. When our
Mm-mm.
clients start assuming what it's supposed to look like, we're in trouble. And so I always say, like, if you can do a visual representation of what it's going to look like, again, it gives you more time, just like the journey card, to name what they're feeling on that expectation map. But like, hey, we're in this stage. It probably won't go according to plan. You're going to have a range of emotions. That's normal. You can share them with me. You won't hurt my feelings. If you don't have any emotions during this, I'm going to worry about you, right? Like, and when you normalize things, right, it's like, hey, this is normal. Like, you should be feeling this way. It doesn't get reflected on you. It gets reflected on the process, and that this is what it looks like to buy or sell our home in today's market. And today's market can be defined by, every different 30 days, it seems to change. So
Amen.
I think it's one of the things that people, like, I love that you had it. Like, you knew it was wandering, wondering, wonderful. Like, you kind of had it in the alliteration as like perfect, right? Like, you had it mapped out in terms of a visual that they could see. And most of my clients, their maps don't always end up looking like Candyland board games. It's just the visual I give you, so I know you can see it in your head, right? But yeah, that's really, really important. And one of my favorite things about an expectation map is that being able, that if you've shown it in the beginning, right? You can also use it with the prospects. I use it in the buyer's journey too. But like, when you show it in the beginning, and then when the client starts to do things that gets the process off, you just bring it back out. And you're like, hey, remember this map we looked at? Here's where we are. We talked about if you did this or didn't do this, it may slow things down. Just want to remind you. Like, it gives such a gentle place to bring them back to, like, hey, you're messing up, without it sounding
Yeah.
like that, which is really
Yeah.
important.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I love that you call it the expectation map because, in my humble opinion, I believe the way to get referrals is to manage expectations and, or at least to create a better experience.
Yeah.
Is like, when you talk about inspections for the realtors and, is that's just, this is just one small example, but
Mhm.
like horribilize it. Give them the nuclear case scenario of what to expect. Like when you do an inspection, that inspector is not there to compliment you on your home. They're literally there like the aunt or uncle who nitpicks every single thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
So they're not going to come out. They get paid for finding wrong things. So they're going to have a report that has 100 things on it. And I want you to know, like, we're not going to ask for 100 things from the seller because most of them are extremely minor. But, we might ask for 5 or 6. And I want you to know that in today's market, sellers may do 2 or 3, or I want you to know they may just say, you're going to take it as is. There's
Mhm.
none, right? I mean, in fact, them saying that so often has actually created the term as is, accepting a property as is. So
Yeah.
I want you to know they may come back and say they're not going to do any repairs. So I want you to know that's the process of inspections. Any questions on inspections? No questions on inspect or how much they cost, and then you tell them a little bit
Right.
higher number than they actually cost, right? So they're 375. You would say they're 4 to 500, and then when it's 375, they're happy. And then when the inspection happens, you go into the inspection and it's 47 items on the sheet. And they're not upset about 47 items. They're actually like, oh, good thing it's not 100. And then you ask for 12 items. They think you're asking for more than you normally would, which in some cases is true. And then the seller comes back and says that they're going to do 6 or 7. You win on all accounts. Now, here's the thing. If the seller says they're not going to do anything, your clients don't get emotional. They stay logical and they understand that they just have a decision to make. So that is like, I don't know if you're maybe one of the first people that I've ever seen write about the expectations within the transaction, and yet it's so critical to success because if you manage expectations correctly, you don't have to do anything superhuman or give gifts to get referrals. You just do your job and you will exceed expectations just simply by doing your job because you manage their expectations. So I absolutely love that. And you have spurred like parts of my brain that I'm telling you have not been awakened in a while. So
Happy to
so
help.
so we're going to keep this linear, Stacey.
Okay, done.
So all right, if someone wants to build a truly referable client experience, what are the non-negotiables? Like, what are the pieces that people should not skip?
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, it is recognizing, we already talked about the definition and understanding what it is, and being intentional about how you want your clients to feel. Do not leave that to chance. There's a whole exercise in chapter 3 that helps you create your ideal client reactions. Like, be intentional about that, right? The next thing is understanding these 3 stages And then what you're going to do within those stages that manages expectations, right, and improves communication, but also adds in relationship building touch points. And that's the formula to a referable client experience.
Mm.
It is doing great work and it is building relationships at the same time. Obviously, you do more work than you do relationship building from an outreach or a touch point perspective, but the formula takes both parts. Most people believe if I do great work, I just got to do great work. That's all I got to do. And I love to start presentations with this. I'm like, okay, how many people think they do great work? And like everybody raises their hand. And I'm like, great, keep them up. I was like, now tell me how many of you guys are drowning in referrals? If you are, keep your hand up. And everybody's hand,
Yeah.
because no one's, and they're like, wait, but am I doing something wrong? No, you just don't know what you don't know. Right. And doing great work, unfortunately, does not equate to receiving referrals. So you've got to do great work. You've got to build a relationship, and then we're able to bridge the gap to referrals. And we're going to be able to utilize that great work you're doing and those relationship building touch points as part of that process. And so that's what I always tell folks, like, stop. Like, I know there are people who are going to pick up this book and they'll be like, part 3, just tell me all the referral stuff.
Yeah.
And they're
Bridge the
going to
gap,
skip,
baby.
yeah, they're going to
Yeah.
skip part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, well, please don't be surprised when none of it works, because you didn't build something that was referable before you then decided to layer on that referable client experience with the bridging of the gap to referrals. So be referable, right? And then be able to bridge the gap to referrals. And that's the other like non-negotiable that I think people need to understand. Like, it's not enough just to understand what it is and the formula and the stages. It is also really important to understand that there's an order to it. There's an order to being referable and then getting referrals. I don't know if you asked me this question the first podcast episode I was on after my first book came out, but people always ask, like, why did I write this book, the client experience, following the first book that I wrote? And it's because I used to say, and I said it at nauseum, people would be like, okay, so I read your book. It's got these 5 steps and now I got it. I got what it takes to get referrals. I'm like, yes, from people who already refer you. And I'm making a huge assumption here. I'm assuming you are referable. And I was like, probably need to do something about that one. Probably need to help people figure out how to be referable. So this book is based on another one of my foundational strategies that I teach to my clients. I've been teaching it to them for a number of years now. And then I finally, got off my butt and decided to write a book about it. But it's that idea of understanding, like, you got to be referable. Then we can bridge the gap to referrals.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Well, you mentioned the CX formula. Like, what sparked that, and what made you decide to create that framework for the CX formula?
Yeah, so it's interesting. This whole concept of the referable client experience happened because, and you're going to love this, and here's another shout out for November. It all happened because of one handwritten note that I sent. Like, kind of crazy, right? When you think about it. So for people who don't know my whole backstory, I had a business. It failed after 4 years. I didn't make it to 5 years. I joined the Business Failure Club, went back to corporate America, was like, how do I get out of here? Became certified as a productivity coach, left corporate, started a second business. And my 4th client that I brought on was referred to me. And everybody else, the first 3 came in because they knew me, and it came in through networking. And so I was like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I was like, this is amazing. This feels great. Didn't get any of these referral things in my first business. Could have been part of why it failed, right? Like, this is amazing. How do I keep this going? And on a whim, I sat down with that client and I wrote a journey card. And I was doing productivity coaching, so that stuff's hard, and I'm going to ask you to make changes, and you're going to have to challenge yourself, and you're not going to like me through it all. And I had experienced that with my first couple of clients, so I just wrote this journey card, and I just wrote it down, and I just wrote it out, and I mailed it to her. And then back then, because it was like 2014, I'm going to my clients' offices, right? And so I show up for the first coaching session, and there on the corkboard on her wall is my card. And it's the only card up there. And then she notices me looking at it, and she was like, I've never gotten a card like that before. So I started doing—
I'm getting chills, Stacey.
I mean,
I'm getting chills.
It was incredible. And I was like, I'm going to have to keep doing that, right? And then I was like, oh, what did I write in that card? I'm going to have to try to remember.
You're over there taking pictures of the card. It was so good. You're like,
I wish I had a picture.
This.
I know. I wish I had a picture of that card up on her corkboard. I can't believe I didn't try to snap the picture when she wasn't looking. But it shifted everything that I thought about in terms of how I take care of my clients outside of this great work that I was doing for them. And that kind of like started me down the path. And I was
Mm.
like, so I started paying attention to all the things I was doing. And, my story is in my first year as that productivity coach, I got 112 referrals that I never asked for. I never had to pay for. I didn't have to be gimmicky, and I know, people like to put in their email signature in real estate, greatest compliment you can give me as a referral. I'm like, please don't
Yeah.
do that. But whatever, people do it. I never had to do any of that stuff. And I got 112 referrals. And then I just started duplicating that for myself and then for my clients. And because they were like, no more inbox stuff, teach me referrals. And so I started teaching it. That's literally how it all started. And I had to remember these things. Like, that's right, I do this. Oh, that's right, I do that. I had to reverse engineer all the things I was doing to build out what I teach today, which is 20 different strategies. But I had
Mm.
to reverse engineer into that. And it all started with that one note card because she put it on the board. And then she said to me, I've never gotten a card like that before. And I was like,
Mm.
duly noted.
Wow. That's a heck of a story. That is a little push for November there,
Yeah.
but it also is a real push for conquering their concerns in the card. Like that needs to
Yeah.
become a standard practice for every business in America, in my opinion, especially if you're in financial services, because
Oh,
anything financial is going to most likely make people nervous. So I absolutely, I love that. I love that. All right. So what are some subtle pitfalls that business owners fall into things they don't realize are actually hurting their client experience?
yeah, so there's like the ones that everyone would expect me to say, like the not setting expectations, right? Not making sure they knew what was coming and leaving that to be in assumptions. But when I talk about like some of the pitfalls that I see people actually struggle with, and the ones that I'm like, gosh, these could be so easily avoided if we would just pay attention to this a little bit different, is in the new, I like to do it breakdown by stages. In the new stage, it's ignoring that quiet voice, right?
Mm.
It's just, and the journey card can solve it. And there's other examples in the book. You can do other things. You can still do the same messaging, but in other ways. But ignoring the quiet voice is a common pitfall that I see clients make. In the active stage, it's the lull of complacency,
Mm.
right? Like you're back here doing all the work. You're the duck under the water where your feet are spinning like crazy because you're doing a ton of work, but that's not what your client sees.
Hmm.
So you are lulled into complacency to communicate, to do relationship building touch points, to see them where they are and acknowledge and like not acknowledging their emotions because you're doing so much work. And remember, you don't have one client at a time. You have multiple clients at a time and they're all in different stages and having different things. So this has to be like a system to work. It's got
Mm.
to be repeatable, right? But like that idea of like when you're lulled into complacency, ask yourself, how does my client feel when they're playing the waiting game, right?
Mm.
Most people who the work they do, there is a waiting game that incurs. Not in every business, but in most
Mm.
businesses, there's some kind of waiting game that occurs. And maybe in real estate, it's not so much the waiting game, right? Sometimes I talk about my realtors that I work with. It's more about the it's not going according to plan game. There's
Hmm.
always an emotional component that people are having as clients. Knowing that and acknowledging it, right, and speaking relationship building touch points to that is something really important. And then an alumni, it's the disappearing act. A common pitfall that people do when their clients hit the alumni stage is they just disappear. They're just like
Yeah.
poof, I'm gone, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I have to tell you though, Michael, you probably know this because you've written your books. When you write a book, does it sometimes remind you of the things you're like, oh wait, I need to get better at that?
Yeah. I
Like,
didn't put the 333 in my first book because I wasn't doing it consistently. And I wanted to make sure I could speak with total integrity
right.
from the book. And then now I do the 333 all the time. And I do this other strategy called the C3PO all the time. I was doing them like 1% of the time and just not consistent with them. So, I mean, come on, right? I mean, we're our own worst critics and
Oh
we're,
my, and human.
yeah, we're human. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I was writing this alumni stage chapter, and I was like, it wasn't something that I wasn't doing consistently. It was something I hadn't thought of in my own business. And I was like, I am a moron. Like, how did I miss this moment? Like, And so we've actually instituted something new for our alumni clients that we haven't ever done before. I'm like, this is such a better experience for them. Sometimes things just kind of have to hit you over the head, right? Like that's just how it works. But
Well,
it's that idea of like, how do you not disappear? But also, here's the thing that's not in the book that I wish I had thought of to put in the book. How do you not become a disappearing act? But also, when you are appearing, it's not your sales stuff,
mm-hmm.
right? So, like if you
Yeah.
send out a weekly newsletter and it's all about what's happening in the market and your client just bought, that may not be what they want to see, maybe at least for the
No.
first year. So, do you have
Yeah.
something different that your alumni clients are receiving? And I do call them
Mhm.
alumni clients. I explain why in the book, but I don't want them past or previous clients in your mind. I want you
That's right.
thinking of them as alumni clients because,
Yeah.
like universities, right, they stay in touch with
That's
their
right.
alumni because they want to, goodwill and money and, donor,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
things, right? We don't want money necessarily, as we want the referrals. And so,
Yep.
which of course becomes money. But it's really important to think about like what are they experiencing? And so like if you're going to send out like a newsletter to your clients on the back end of being an alumni, they don't need to know how much the market has changed and maybe they overbought. They don't really
Yeah.
need, but
Yeah.
maybe they do need other things that are more significant to the fact that they've just purchased a home or just sold their home.
For sure. And I absolutely love that. I mean, honestly, I think we've majored in the alumni phase. We call them forever clients,
Yeah,
not
perfect.
alumni clients necessarily, but it's same concept.
Mhm.
And I want to jump out of my skin and just say events are the answer, right? The answer is events. But that doesn't always work from a national perspective, but it works really well from a local perspective. And you don't put your sales hat on, you put your community service hat on, and you just give back to the community and get people together and engage and that kind of thing. But lots of ways to do that. Just don't disappear, I think, is the biggest thing on that. And all right, so a referable client experience sure sounds amazing, doesn't it? But how do you turn that into a predictable referral pipeline? What's the missing link that most people overlook?
Oh, well, there's not just one.
How do we bridge the gap? I just want to go to section three.
Three.
I think we've built the foundation. I think we've built the foundation and,
Agreed.
and we got our layer. Dang it, I'm referable now, I think,
Yes.
right? But I have to tell you, I love what you like. I noted, like, I've got notes all over your book. I'm sorry. If you wanted it back, I'm
No.
sorry. But I mean, while you might deserve referrals for the work you do, you are not owed them. Like, wha-bam! Like Stacey hits you in the gut with like the answer. I mean, because it's so powerful. So, all
Yeah.
right. So,
So let's talk about bridging the gap to referrals, right? For
yeah.
referrals in the client experience are going to come from like in three main ways, right? We call them the right people, the referral hot zones, and the referral moments. And this is outside of like doing other things in terms of like a client appreciation event or something like that, where referrals can show up from an event perspective as well. But when we look at that, doing that client experience, right people, this is the only one we can't build a strategy around because we don't know who they are until they reveal themselves. It's like you get a new client and they're just a natural connector and they're like, I gotta tell 15 people I got the best real estate agent ever. And they do. And then all of a sudden you have another client from them and you're like, you can't make that happen if you tried, right? But the right people, there's a way to take care of them, of course, once we have the right people. But the right people is a great way. It's just not a way that I can tell you how to build a strategy around it because we don't know who they are until they reveal themselves. The other two, though, are different. Referral hot zones. There are times in every business where you are more likely to receive referrals than not. In that chapter, I think it's chapter 8, I walk through three different ways of how to identify your hot zones. It may feel like overkill, but it is really written for three different people. The person who's like, I'm going to do the least amount of work. So, what is that? To the person who's like, I have to know every piece of data and everything to understand my referral hot zones. But we're teaching you in those ways how to identify if you have a referral hot zone. And if you've received referrals from clients, you do. Don't assume you know where they are, though. Don't assume it happens when you hand over the keys, because it very well could happen like right after they sign the contract, right? Like, so don't make assumptions. Just go with what the data shows you. If your clients are referring you, at what point in their client experience did they make that referral? and map it to a time that they were in their client experience, right? So were they in the new stage, the active stage, the alumni stage? How long were they in the alumni stage? Like, what does that look like? Understanding your referral hot zones, because if we have them, we're going to go in with relationship building touch points in those moments. And then, of course, we're going to use the right language that I call referral seeds. We're going to use the right language to plant referral seeds in those moments as well. Because sometimes bridging the gap to referrals is all about percolating the idea of referrals throughout the client experience without feeling like that's what you're doing, right? This is not that every 32 days I need to remind you that you probably know people who should be referred to me. Don't do that. That's bad, right? I mean, some people wouldn't say that's bad. Stacey says that's bad. I think it's bad in terms of nurturing that relationship. And then the third way are what we call referral moments. These are things your clients are going to say, and you need to know how to respond. And it's not everything your client's going to say, but it's things your clients are going to say where there's an opportunity to respond with a referral seed, an opportunity to plant that referral seed in that moment based on how you respond. And that's really important. And there's obviously some language that I give, like here's some common ones to kind of keep in mind, but it's really important for you to pay attention to what are your clients saying? And is there a way for you to loop in a referral seed type answer to that? Right. And so, the language piece works when you know the point of it and then you make it sound like yourself. So I give scripts, but I expect people to like personalize them for themselves as long as they don't like, change the total script. But like, here's an easy one. You have a client that's referred to you. You should be reminding that client throughout the client experience. Like these are referral moments. You should be reminding that client throughout the client experience, not like 10 times, but maybe like 3, depending on how long you're with them, that they were referred to you. Hey, Michael, I'm so glad that you referred Tommy to me. It has been such sorry, I was saying it the wrong way. I'm having a conversation to Tommy and you refer Tommy to me, right? So like, hey, Tommy, I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to work together. I'm so glad that Michael referred you to me. Right? In that sentence, that's all it takes. Just oh, that's right. I was referred, right? But people get wrong about referrals, and I know you know this, Michael, is that it is a little bit of the power of suggestion, but people want referrals and referring to you to be their idea. They don't want it to be your idea. They don't want you to tell them to do it. They want to see an opportunity and refer. We just kind of have to sometimes help them along to see those opportunities by planting the idea that, yeah, remember you were referred to me, and now they're going to be seeing it more. And if it's percolating along, not like in a ridiculous way, but it's like really good and it's strategic and there's some cadence to it and it's not all on top of each other, like it's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. Not for every single client, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get the ones who are more likely to refer to start referring. And that's the goal of that client experience.
I absolutely love that. That's exactly what we should be doing. And, it is amazing to me, especially in the real estate world. We also work with other salespeople, and in general, they tend to be really poor about mentioning the referral, even to the point where when I say things like, when you talk to the referral, one of the things you need to ask is, what did the referral source say about me? In this case, you would say to Tommy, it's like, hey, what did Michael say about me that made you decide to pick up the phone? Or what did Michael say when he referred me? And just get them like, well, they said you're the best. They said you're going to take care of me and that kind of thing. Well, I don't know about the best, but I'm definitely here to take care of you. And I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm just really glad that Tommy or Michael thinks highly enough of me to spread the word. And that's my goal with this whole transaction and helping you, is that you feel so happy in the end that you want to do the same as Michael, right? Something like that. But it's one of those where like just being ready with this response is just so critical. And of course, I go extreme with that because I'm kind of an extreme person, but it's like literally your response is referrals. Like, it's referrals. Just be ready to mention the word referrals when you can. So I am more hitting that over the hammer over the head a little bit, maybe even too much so. But it's one of those like, what are some other examples of like moments and responses that we should be ready, with that response.
Yeah. So sometimes if you're thinking about this from like a referral hot zone perspective, right? It's sometimes it's like that eager anticipation, like this is going to happen, right? So in that new client stage, I think it's why the journey card is so very important, or the journey gift, or however you want to do it, is so very important. I think it's why the expectation map is so very important, because in that new stage, when you have somebody and you have noticed that to be a referral hot zone, it's that idea of recognizing that in the moment. And let's say, hey, you know what? Like, I am so excited that you are looking forward to this journey. Like we've talked about, it's not going to go according to plan. You've got your expectation map. You know what it's like to work with me. Like, here's how this is going to go. More than likely, you're probably going to be having conversations with other people who are going to ask how this is going, right? Because everybody has an experience with real estate, good or bad, right? And, if they ever have questions about what that experience is like, you can share this map with them. Like, this is not like just for you. Like, if you need to share it with other people, and you can like talk through the experience, like, I'm happy for you to share this experience, this roadmap, right? I'm happy for you to share this expectation map, and I can give you another copy if you need it. Like, just like that. I didn't even use the word referral,
Hmm.
right? I just said, take this thing that others may want
Hmm.
to know about and show it to them, give it to them. I mean, obviously your logo is going to be on it, right?
Yep.
It's not going to be the main part. The Candyland board game's a little big for that, but it's going to be on there. Be like, yeah. And then it's the power of suggestion that I think sometimes people overlook, but it has to come from a place of like helpfulness, not
Hmm.
pushiness, right? Hey,
Yeah.
if people have questions, like, yeah, like just give them the map. I can give you another
Yeah.
one if they take yours, like no big deal, right? But
Love it.
it's the opposite of that. It's being like, you're going to talk to people who are going to
Yeah.
have questions about what we did, and
Yeah.
here's the map, and here's 15 more
Hmm.
copies, and you need to hand them out.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be told like that. No
That's
one
right.
wants to be talked to like that, and nobody wants your work to do. I got enough on my to-do list. I don't need to be adding your tasks to it. So you have to just think about how you switch what you say and in the moments that you say it.
100%. And I love it. If it's their idea, it's the greatest idea ever. If you have to push them with the idea, then it's your idea and they may never implement it.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
absolutely love that. So what, what do we say to a potential client or someone that is connected when they say, like, at the end, it's just like you've helped them a bunch. And then they go, well, and I actually want you to answer this because I actually want to know your answer, right?
Okay.
So how can I help you? Like, what can I, Michael J. Mayer, truthfully, like, I really want the answer to this, genuinely. What can I do for you?
So the answer to when somebody says that to you at the end of a conversation.
Yeah, I want your answer, and then I want, like, maybe, well, actually, your answer may solve both those problems, right?
Okay, so you want the answer I give when people ask me that, or how I tell
Yeah,
people to answer that question?
I want you to tell me how I can help you. Like, how can Michael Mayer help you? What can I do for you? I want to help you. So, what can I do for you?
Yeah. So I think the natural inclination that people go in to answer that question with is like, oh, well, that's great. Here's how you can refer me. I
Yeah.
always deliberately find something else.
Mm,
So when people say this to me, like, let's just use this podcast as an example, right? I'm on a
yeah.
podcast. People are like, hey, how can I help you? I'm like, are you kidding?
Mhm.
Just being on the podcast is helpful. Having the opportunity to speak to your audience is helpful, because I know if people are listening and they're interested, they'll find their way to my book and they'll purchase it. They'll find their way onto my email list because they'll want to know more. And all that's going to come because of you, right?
Drop the mic. Just drop the mic right there. Do you have a mic? Do you have a mic you can drop?
I can't
I
drop it.
mean,
It's over here.
I hope everybody heard that. I hope I hope everybody heard that. Because it it gets to where we want to go anyway. By the way, for those of you that are like catching this late, is we're talking about this book right here, right? The Referable Client Experience, and you can go to referrableclientexperience.com to get your copy of the book. You're going to want to go do that ASAP. But she could have said, like, when I said, "What can I do for you?" You could say, "Well, you could help me sell a lot of books. You could help me do this. You could help me." But instead, she acknowledged the help that was already given. You've already helped me,
Yep.
which psychologically, everybody needs to understand that that is it's actually, and you may not coin it this way, but it's neurolinguistic programming who do we help? We help people who are our friends. So when you say you've already helped, it actually makes the relationship tie closer together, and then they're more inclined to help you even more. And in this case, it's like Stacey said, it's just like you've already helped me just by exposing me to your audience. People are going to find my book naturally, which maybe they will, maybe they won't. But like there's psychological stuff going on there, and then and then they're going to find my programs and such. She literally mentioned everything that she wanted as a call to action, but it was super friendly, super comfortable, super smooth, and literally acknowledged the help that the person had already done. And I don't feel like I'm really doing anything more with helping her, and that's the easiest. When I could go into a lot of depth psychology, because it's like, or she could have said something else that we haven't done yet. And then I help her do that. Well, how are most people in the world geared? They're geared to match. So if I help her do something that isn't within the realm of what we've already done, then I feel like she may owe me, right? I may to match and keep it. Well, I helped you do this. I helped you sell a bunch of books, so I expect you to help me sell a bunch of books or whatever it is. And it wasn't positioned that way. It was positioned brilliantly, and that's what a referral expert does. And that's good stuff. So,
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate
So what can I do to help you?
that.
All right. So bridging the gap. Okay. So here's the thing. I want to make sure I've got these right. The three aspects of that are the right people, the referral hot zone, and the referral moments. Within the referral hot zone, I want to plant referral seeds within the three categories of new, active, and alumni,
Mhm.
and make those touch points. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the truth is, this is where people are like, okay, just tell me what I do. And I'm always like, I know people hate this answer. It depends, but it truly is. It depends on what you're doing, right? And your client experience and the hot zones that you have. Because for some people, right, if you tell me, like, I seem to get a lot of referrals right when we're like finishing up the work that we do. Well, I need to understand, what is the work that you do? Has it been this exhausting process to get to the work we're done? Or has it been the exhausting for you as the business owner, but really easy on your client? And then ta-da, there's this like great moment. Well, how we're going to handle if referrals are coming in that moment or just after that moment, what we're going to do and what we're going to say will be very, very different. And so there is a level of customization to this in terms of understanding like what's happening and what your client has felt leading into that moment. And so I think that's the thing I always tell folks, like, that's why we teach 3 ways in the freaking book to like identify your hot zones, because if you don't know what they are, a lot of times I have clients who do this. They'll be like, well, just give me some generic ones. And I list some generic ones in the book for the people who are like, I just need to know, just tell me what the answer is, right? And sometimes they'll put them in place and then nothing will change. I'm like, because those aren't your hot zones. And so it's important to know what your hot zones are and what is your client feeling in the run up to that hot zone, right? So, like, for example, if I'm going to do a touch point that's a relationship building touch point, let's just say for sake of argument, I'm a website designer, and I have gone through 14 changes with you on your website. It doesn't felt like that to you. It's killing me, right? And here I am about to present your website and it's done, right? That's like a celebratory moment, right? And so for me, I may be like, I'm just so glad this project's done. But for you as the client, you're like, oh my gosh, here comes my website. I submitted some stuff months ago and I've tweaked some things along the way, and now I get to see my new website. That's a celebratory moment. I probably do a relationship touch point that is in a celebration mode. Very, very different, let's be honest, if I'm a divorce attorney. Nope. Like, we may recognize that
Maybe
celebration moment.
it may be 50% celebratory.
Yes. So for some, we may have 2 options though. Like, I do work with folks that are like, hey, it can be good or bad. And so we have 2 options to recognize that hot zone, right? People can refer from a place of unhappiness, not with you, but with maybe what is happening with that's going on. And so the idea is, in that moment, what are we doing for that? How are we and it still feels like an extension of the client experience. It's still a relationship building touch point. It's still the second part of the formula, but we know we're doing it because it has a higher likelihood of driving referrals, and we may or may not plant a referral seed in that moment as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That, and so true too, that they have to be your hot zones. They have to be like in your language. Your responses need to be yours. And what you're causing people to do is really take a helicopter ride over the client experience through the client's eyes, and starting to make them realize, like, where are those pinch points? Where are those pain points? Where are those celebratory points? And then crafting our communication around those moments to help the client feel better, help the client feel more either comfortable, safe, security, smart, whatever it may be in the process. That awesome. All right. How do they get the book?
They just go to wherever they like to buy books, and it will be
Amazon?
there. It'll be on Amazon. It'll be at Barnes and Nobles.
You're okay with just making $1 per book, Stacey? You're okay with that? You're
I actually make a little bit more from that with
okay.
Amazon. Yeah.
Well, you negotiated better than I did with
Yeah.
Amazon.
So, well, I mean, I think it also depends on maybe who your publisher is too. I learned that the land of
Yeah.
publishing has definitely changed. But yeah, if it's Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, it's Bookshop if you're in Australia listening to this. It's Indigo or Chapters if you're in Canada. Wherever you like to buy books, the books will be there. You'll be able to purchase them. Of course, you can learn more at referrableclientexperience.com. You can learn about if you want to purchase bulk copies. There's information there. If you're like, you know what, this interview was amazing, but I still want to dip my toe in and just download a chapter, you can do that too at referrableclientexperience.com.
Love it. Why did I wait so long to get you back on Referrals podcast? Like, I am such an idiot. This has been absolutely phenomenal. This is one of those that I think people are going to bookmark, they're going to share, they're going to note, they're going to literally, like, one of the things I do with really good podcasts is I will email myself, or I will text message myself a link to that podcast just to remind myself to go back to it. This is amazing. I promised another amazing episode of Referrals podcast, and you made it super amazing, if that's even a word. And we did keep it linear for the most part. So that was a promise.
I love how you keep throwing that in there.
Inside joke from pre waiting room, from the green room, which is appropriately named for you today.
Yes.
So love that. For those of you watching on YouTube, you will see the green theme from Stacey, and I absolutely love the symbolism of it, and I love how it works with everything that you do. Just everything you do is so professional and so consistent, and just know just how much I appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you and what you're doing in the industry and helping so many salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, small business owners to do it the right way, in a way that makes people feel awesome and not awkward. So awesome.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Referrals podcast. I told you it would be amazing. And you're probably thinking it was even super amazing. And we did talk a little bit about November. So if you're interested in checking it out, it's Note, N-O-T-E, Vember, notevember.com. Go check it out. And remember, when you sign up for this challenge, it's very inexpensive. If you sign up for this challenge, you will get a free month trial of Referral Mastery Academy, which includes a couple masterminds with me. You also get the Money Mastery class, which is a lot of people think it's the best business planning class you can ever take. Money Mastery is also included in this. So make sure you go check it out at notevember.com. We'd love to have you take the class. You want to learn more about the generosity generation, go to joingengen.com. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, share this. Go get the book. Make sure that you are fully educated on what it means to be referable and to deliver the referable client experience. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope the best for you. And we'll see you next time on Referrals Podcast.